Welcome back to Krono Canvas, where we bring history's forgotten stories to life, one era at a time. In medieval Europe, life behind castle walls was rarely as glamorous as it seemed. Royal girls, princesses, and noble daughters were treated less as individuals and more as political assets. From their earliest years, they were molded for a purpose: to represent their families and strengthen alliances. They spent their childhoods learning etiquette, embroidery, diplomacy, religion, and the delicate art of courtly manners. Every lesson shaped them for a role they didn't choose, because in those days, marriage was never a love story. It was an alliance waiting to happen. As the royal daughters grew older, their lives were no longer their own. Marriage became a matter of strategy, a move on a political chessboard. At an age when most girls would dream of freedom, they were instead promised to kings or princes twice their age. There were no love stories here, only contracts sealed with wax and signatures, deciding their fate before they ever spoke a word. A smile at the wedding wasn't a sign of joy, but of duty. Every jewel on the crown was a reminder that her life now belonged to politics, not passion. Once the vows were spoken, a new reality began. A royal wife was expected to produce heirs, preferably sons, to secure the dynasty. She managed servants, presided over endless banquets, and kept the image of perfection alive even when her heart broke behind closed doors. Jealous courtiers whispered. Alliances shifted. Every step, every glance could mean survival or scandal. Even queens had to play a game of power where one wrong move could erase their names from history. They wore crowns of gold but lived under invisible chains, bound by expectations, watched by everyone, trusted by none. Within the palace, luxury hid isolation. Royal women lived inside private quarters called the gyneceum, richly decorated, yet suffocating. They followed rules for everything: how to speak, how to sit, even when to smile. Beyond those marble walls, wars were fought, kingdoms expanded. But they were trapped inside, like birds in gilded cages. Letters and gossip were their only windows to the outside world. Freedom for them existed only in imagination. Behind the velvet curtains of royalty lurked the darkest truths. Childbirth, the one duty every queen was judged by, was a battle for survival. Without modern medicine, infection and death were common visitors, and if she failed to bear a son, she faced humiliation, exile, or worse. But even survival didn't guarantee peace. Court politics were cruel. Poison in a goblet, daggers in the dark, smiles hiding betrayal. Every friend could be an enemy. Every night could be her last. Yet, among these women, some refused to fade into the background. They learned to play the same game as the men, but quietly, with whispers instead of swords, with letters instead of armies. Some queens became skilled diplomats, manipulating alliances behind the throne. Others ruled as regents when kings fell to war or disease. Their intelligence was their greatest weapon, but also their greatest danger. For a woman who gained too much power was always one rumor away from ruin. One wrong word could turn admiration into accusation and respect into rebellion. Centuries later, we remember the crowns, the jewels, the portraits, symbols of elegance and grace. But those paintings never showed the fear in their eyes or the loneliness behind their smiles. For every royal woman who lived in glory, 100 lived in silence, their stories erased, their pain forgotten. History painted them as queens, but in truth they were prisoners, trapped in palaces of gold, surrounded by walls that glittered only on the outside. Inside those towering castles, life shimmered with power, but echoed with pain. This was not just the story of one woman. It was the fate of many who traded their freedom for a crown. The medieval world teaches us that behind every throne lies sacrifice, and behind every crown, a shadow. Thank you for watching Krono Canvas, where history comes alive, one forgotten story at a time. If you enjoyed this journey into the brutal life of medieval royalty, don't forget to like the video, share it with fellow history lovers, and subscribe to Krono Canvas for more stories from the dark, dazzling corners of history. Until next time, keep your eyes on the past because every shadow has a story.